Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another Johnny Torch live broadcast number 155. And today we bring you Torch News Roundup number 135. Here on the only way to spend your Saturday here with Johnny Torch on Johnny Torch Live. And we've got a pretty good show here. There's a lot of rumors going around, so I usually don't deal a lot in rumors, but I don't know if too much of the news that's come out is confirmed. So you're going to take a lot of this stuff with a grain of salt. But before we begin today's epic broadcast, I want to admonish you to hit that like button, share whenever possible. Sharing is a good thing. And subscribe if you haven't already, as we are trying to hit 100 subscribers. And I always follow back. I always sub for sub. So it goes without saying, if you have a YouTube channel, by all means, let me know in the comments below, and I will reciprocate in kind. Unless, of course, you do something really, really weird and demonic or something. But in 98% of cases, I always sub back. We also have the chat room open in case anyone is interested. This is the show where we usually try to interact with the chat. When I do reviews, I know a lot of times I can't because I'm talking about the one subject. Before we move on to the news, I also want to take on the important bit of business that we have here. I got Bullets Bourbon issue 6 delivered to me just yesterday, and in preparation for my convention appearance tomorrow. So thankfully that came in time. I've been dying to debut this issue at one of the convention appearances this year. The Coffee is for Closers Johnny Torch New England Comic-Con tour. That's what we're calling it. Tomorrow I am going to be at KidsCon for my second appearance there. This is their 4th annual convention in the Radisson Hotel in Nashua, New Hampshire. The event lasts from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. I'm going to be heading out early to get there and make sure that I am there in time. And we're going to be debuting issue number 6 there for the first time. So I'm very excited about this. Hope to see you there. As usual, I got some swag. I bring as many goodies as I can. Boy, those bags get heavy. The more books I create and the more swag I bring, I'm telling you, I'm going to need someone to carry the bags. But life does go on, and we will be there tomorrow, May 19th, if you're watching this on a rebroadcast. And hope to see you there. Again, I've got the Granite State Comic-Con that we are going to be at coming up in September. That will be September 14th and 15th. And as always, I've got a few more irons in the fire. I'm trying to see if I can do maybe one more con this season because I've got a long stretch between May and September. I probably could see if I can get to maybe one in July, something like that. Also, this was a late addition. This was a late addition to the convention schedule. So I'm very thankful for Emily and everyone there at KidsCon for inviting me and giving me some space there at the 11th hour. Very much appreciated. And like I said, it's a great event. I love doing the KidsCon particularly. It's a lot of fun. All right, so let us move on. And first, before we get any further, check out the link in the description below for my website, The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon Private Eye, the greatest comic action-adventure saga known to the history of mankind. I may be biased, though. But, and also take a look at the link in the description below for my Twitter page. You can find out all the stuff I'm up to, good and bad. And, I try not to get too political. It's kind of hard in this day and age not to, but so you can get a little bit of everything there, where we mostly just talk about pop culture here on YouTube. We have a poll of the week question this week. It is almost done. We've only got 2 days left on it. Not one of my most wildly successful polls. We only got 32 votes, but you've got a shot if you are listening to this within the next 2 days of broadcast to vote and have your voice be heard and make a difference in this poll, because it is, it's relatively close. The question is, apparently IG-88 will appear in The Mandalorian. Of the other bounty hunters, not counting Boba Fett, whom Vader amassed, who would you most want to see get the spotlight in a Star Wars television series? Now, not necessarily being the star of the show, but sort of, maybe getting a supporting role, or at least letting us see a little more of them than we've seen in The Empire Strikes Back. Of course, the bounty hunters in question were Bosk, Dengar, Forlom, and Zuckuss. As it stands right now, with 32 votes and 2 days left, in fourth place, Zuckuss has 0 votes, which is surprising to me because I was always a fan of Zuckuss back when he was called Forlom, because for some reason it was very confusing. They mixed those character names up in the action figures. So when I was a kid, Forlom was Zuckuss and Zuckuss was Forlom. But yeah, Zuckuss is the more diminutive one there with the gun and the breathing apparatus. I think he's a Gad, which I believe is the same species as Plo Koon. Is that correct? Anyway, Zuckuss got 0% of the vote, and he's who I would have voted for. So there you have it. In third place, Forlom with 16% of the vote. I always have to question the droid bounty hunters, because in Star Wars, pretty much we see all droids being subservient to, their human creators and benefactors. I don't know what kind of droid goes into it for, credits, or, I guess, they have to maintain their existence just like anyone else. In second place with 31% of the vote, Dengar, which he has an interesting backstory, if I remember the EU. He had some kind of speeder run-in with Han, and that's how he got all messed up. And in first place, with 53% of the vote, Bosk, who is, I would say, probably the coolest looking of them. Bosk and Dengar were actually in Return of the Jedi, so they probably died at the Battle of the Sarlacc pit. But the future is unwritten for Forlom and Zuckuss, who I believe is a team. Don't they work together? Again, the EU, I didn't get like real deep into it. I'm like maybe up to my ankles in EU knowledge, but yeah. So anyhow, head over to Twitter to check out my poll of the week question for the next 2 days. Okay. So, as usual, we will get in on the news stories of the week. We've got quite a bunch of them. We're going to start off with news that, once again, yet again, the Masters of the Universe reboot movie is being put on hold. It has been rescheduled for 2021, which honestly makes sense because they scheduled it for 2019, December of 2019, and there's no way in Hades they're going to be able to film, the live action stuff, put in the CGI, which I imagine this film is going to be sporting a plethora of, and do it all within, what is it now, 6 months remaining. So again, it's not unlikely that this was going to happen. Noah Sorrento is the only member of the cast that I believe is confirmed. Is he confirmed? And he's probably going to need the time to bulk up and so on and so forth. Anyway, as I take a sip of some Bancha tea, foregoing the H2O and the coffee today, but some Bancha tea. Let's see. According to Deadline, the Aaron and Adam Nee directed adaptation will be hitting theaters March 5th, 2021, a far way off from previous Christmas 2019 release date. This, of course, seems logical. It is written by Iron Man's Matt Holloway and Art Markham. So, yeah, this is kind of necessary. I guess it has to happen. I thought from the beginning it was pretty ridiculous that they were expecting to get this film out this year, ostensibly. So, what do you think about the He-Man movie, the Masters of the Universe film? As I've said before, if they really can capture the essence of the 80s cartoon, at least. The 2000s cartoon was also very good, although, as I say all the time, I didn't like the connotations that Skeletor was He-Man's uncle. I don't like that. That's kind of like Krypton, which, well, spoilers if you haven't seen Krypton. The new season's coming up, so you probably should have seen the old season by now. But they've made General Zod Superman's uncle, or is he grand uncle? I don't know, something like that. But they've made Zod related to Superman in some respect, and I don't like when they do that. You don't like retrospectively put a familial relationship between a hero and an arch enemy in retrospect. That doesn't work for me. You if you lead with that, if it's like the first time we learn about you know Darth Vader, it's not retrospective. I mean, retrospective would be if, like, in The Force Awakens, it was revealed that Darth Vader was Luke's father, and it's like, eh, why'd you go there? So I don't like when they do that, and it really, especially with a long term. I mean, He-Man is now what, I don't know, 30-ish, almost 40 years old, the character. You didn't really need to monkey with it like that, but you know, I don't know. I just don't see it. What they did in the 2000 show too, which was interesting, was show that Tila was not the natural daughter of Duncan, the Man at Arms. I was a little bit more receiving of that because I don't believe Duncan was her natural father in the original series. Um, the sorceress entrusted her to him in both versions. Of course, we learn that Fisto was her father in um, the 2000s version. But yeah, I always felt that, which would make, of course, and because in that version, Fisto is actually the brother of Duncan, which that is where I kind of draw the line. I didn't think we needed to have them be brothers because now Man at Arms is Tila's uncle, and she sees him as her father. And I don't like that kind of monkeying around with relationships either. They should have just made it that the sorceress trusted Duncan, as a friend and contemporary, pretty much, to adopt Tila, because of course she has the responsibilities of Grayskull. So again, this Masters of the Universe is the greatest untapped potential for an epic trilogy of films that hasn't been, for some reason, focused on by Hollywood yet. They don't know what to do. But you have all that great stuff. You have the sorceress guarding Grayskull. You have Tila as sort of, the protege in training. She doesn't even know that her destiny is someday to become the sorceress. You've got the intrigue, of course, between Adam is He-Man, but there is only a very select few that know that in the palace. You have the sort of quasi romance between He-Man and Tila. You've got that with Adam being sort of the Clark Kent that kind of would rather be with Tila, but Tila's got eyes for He-Man. So again, it's got like a long, and and the villains are also very cool to realize in live action. We haven't seen. I mean, Trapjaw. I'd love to see Trapjaw in live action. Skeletor was cool looking when Langella played him back in the 70s. I mean, I can only imagine they're going to make him look even better now. I'm just really excited for this film, hoping that they will get it right. Just sit and watch, if nothing else, like the 10, 12 best episodes of 80s Masters. Sit and watch that and come up with a script. It should be easy. I've got the greatest hits, sort of the greatest episodes, so to speak, DVD of Masters in the Universe. I probably should get the whole sets because they did have a lot of good shows. They had a lot of not so good shows too, like every show. But if you just watch the ones I got on that set, you'll be a fan, and you'll see, you know, just what made this toy line as well as franchise so special. And they had some of the kooky things. It was basically a lot of play on words, pun stuff, like Buzz Off is a character. They started getting kooky like that, Mecha Neck and all that stuff. You know, and it was also fun too that they had the Horde and She-Ra and all that stuff, which of course is being brutalized over in Netflix with the SJW She-Ra. But you know, we could see a resurgence if this is a successful film. We could get some franchise things going here, and the possibilities are endless. Give us a She-Ra franchise as well, which would probably be just as well received, if not, you know, better received. All right, so let me know what you think in the comments below about the potential Masters of the Universe film. All right, next up, next order of business. Let's see what we got here. We got some MCU news. Some MCU news to talk about here. Again, I'm going to stress that the following MCU stuff is all gossip, and I cannot confirm any of this to be true, but this is the scuttlebutt right now. So I'm going to, in order to have a show and something to talk about, I'm going to lay it on you. And, oh, man, it still hurts. That's the way I felt about Black Widow's. Again, spoilers, but I think everybody's seen the film by now. Black Widow's unfortunate demise in Endgame. You know, I really don't like the fact that they killed her off. Now let me I might launch into a tirade here, but at the risk of getting into off the beaten path, you know, there is sort of the concept of, it's very strange because Marvel is, you know, they're going woke now. They're pushing into that. They're leaning heavily into that comic book uh, element where Marvel is now as a comic franchise where everything is woke, girl power, yes, Queen Slay, and all that stuff, and yet they kill off the most popular, their strongest, and arguably most talented actress here in the character of Black Widow. And why would they do something like that? Well, the problem is, and I've said this all along, Black Widow is a problematic character for the MCU because she, and this is the reason why a solo movie of hers hasn't been made up to now, because the Black Widow is the most feminine of the MCU characters. It's really hard to market her to little girls when her skill set is basically using her femininity, using her beauty, using what we used to call feminine wiles to get what she wants from a man, a prospective mark, whoever it is that she's trying to get information or trying to reach her goal. And she can do that by kicking butt, but her skill set is subterfuge. She goes in there not to break down doors like Captain Marvel and you know, force her way into the boss fight. Her skill set is basically to seduce and tempt and to try to uh, get what she wants by means of not, you know, getting violent, for lack of a better term. So that is difficult for Marvel to make. A lot of people are wanting it to be an R-rated movie, and while I'm on, you know, I'm on the side where all superhero movies should be PG rated, or at least have the option. I mean, if you want to do an unrated cut after the fact and throw in a couple of scenes that, you know, that's fine. But I believe comics are for kids. I believe superheroes are for kids. You know, basically our generation, you know, you know, my generation is like from the 80s or whatever, maybe the generation before that, but that was the first generation that really allowed the comics to grow up with them. You know, originally superheroes were sort of thought to be, that's cute up until you're 13, 14 years old, and then you forget about it and move on with life. But, you know, then probably the generation before me, like the 60s, 70s, is when writers came in that were like, I grew up with this and I really loved it. But, you know, if I put like maybe a slightly harder edge on this and make it a little more mature spin, this is probably going to be great literature. And that's when you had Stan Lee do that, Jack Kirby, Ditko, all the greats, Adams and O'Neill, and on both sides, DC and Marvel. And so that's why when it came to my generation, 80s and 90s, comics were respectable. It wasn't just kid stuff anymore. Again, I'm going down another rabbit trail, but the fact is, when you do the Black Widow, you have to bear in mind that, and we've seen glimpses of this in the movies, particularly Age of Ultron, which, even though I don't like a lot of that movie, I did appreciate what they brought to the Black Widow in that film. And you have to understand that basically that Avengers and Age of Ultron really showed Black Widow in her milieu, and that is what she does. Trying to market that to kids, is not very easy. And then you have now the politically correct crowd, the SJW crowd, who are forcing their views, their beliefs on these characters. And with, the Captain Marvels of the world, they don't need no man, and we're not going to be able to delve into a romance with Black Widow and anybody. They pretty much nixed any romances for her in these films to begin with. I mean, there was sort of the suggestion maybe it could be Tony, maybe it could be Cap. I possibly thought Hawkeye in the very beginning, but they nixed all that, and they couldn't really figure out how to utilize her skill set without it flying in the face of their SJW mandate. So that's the reason why she got killed off. That's the reason why that they didn't really know what to do with this character. And sadly, I don't know if this is going to spawn a franchise. This seems more to me like an afterthought. I was hoping when I heard, oh, Black Widow movie, she's finally gonna get her due. She's gonna get her three the way Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor got their three. Franchise. She'll still be in the Avengers for maybe two more movies, and we'll have like a 5-film contract for her or something. But apparently, this is like an afterthought. This is sort of the thank you retirement party. This is them telling her, we thank you for your years of service. You're getting a solo movie. You get to stretch your acting chops, a bit, and not have to, you know, play your niche anymore. You're gonna get a full movie for yourself. Then bye bye, go away. We're not gonna hear from you anymore. That's what I'm afraid is gonna happen. And I would probably bet money that is what's going to happen, because the Russo brothers have made it pretty clear they're not bringing her back. And it's possible. I mean, like I said, if they can bring back Gamora from a past self, and bring her in, they could do the same thing with Black Widow, right? I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense, especially in comics and sci-fi. You can do just about anything. I mean, if somebody else went to get the Soul Stone and sacrificed themselves to bring her back, I would think that's a reasonable trade. Because a lot of people are saying, well, you can't undo the bargain for the Soul Stone. Well, that's true. I think she would have to die for that. I don't think you can snap her back like the Hulk tried to do. But I think if somebody else sacrificed themselves for the Soul Stone and used the Soul Stone to restore her soul, I think that would be an acceptable bargain or whatever in order to use the Soul Stone. What do you think? I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. Again, I'm not too sure exactly how they're going to do this. But the news, let's get to the actual news story. It's been widely reported that Black Widow will be an origin story following Natasha Romanoff as she battles to stop the Y2K virus and leaves behind Russia to join S.H.I.E.L.D. There's a chance we'll see some of that play out in the movie, but Sebastian Stan has dropped a bombshell which may change everything. Let's see. During a recent convention appearance in Italy, convention goers claim that Stan told fans that Black Widow takes place shortly after the events of Captain America Civil War. leading people to believe that Sebastian Stan will in fact reprise the role of Bucky / Winter Soldier in that film. That makes sense. I can see, you know, doing the flashback thing where maybe we talk about some of her origin, and it's the traditional Godfather 2 framework, and we can see some of her origin as we see her. I don't know what exactly happened in the aftermath of Civil War. That was interesting. She basically hid out and laid low. That's kind of what she's done in between every movie, right? Didn't she lay low after the Winter Soldier, and then she was laying low after Civil War? She's had a life of that. Um, the film will be directed by Kate Shortland with a script by Ned Benson. Black Widow is expected to be released next May. All right, so what do you think? What do you think the Black Widow movie should be about? What do you think it will be about? I've said my piece on this a couple of times. You can check out the video where I plotted a Black Widow movie that I would have liked to see. It would have dealt with the Red Guardian, her husband, which of course they're never going to touch on now because Black Widow don't need no man. She's probably not going to have a love interest in this film. She's probably not going to be doing her, her spy work, her seductive qualities and stuff, especially if it's set after Civil War. So again, this is looking to be pretty depressing. I think maybe, if anything, it'll be, as Loki would say, a balm to soothe the still raw wound of losing Black Widow and Scarlett Johansson in the MCU going forward. But I don't know. At the rate that MCU is getting woke, I don't think this is going to be pretty much what I wanted it to be. But we will see. All right, let us take a look now at some other news in the MCU. Let's see. Kevin Feige has been cornered on whether the Mandarin will return, because, as you know, in the one shot, Hail to the King, or All Hail the King, or whatever it was, I don't remember. We did get to see Trevor Slattery return, and he was abducted because the real Mandarin didn't like what I'm trying to think of the actor's name, but Trevor Slattery did in the name of the Ten Rings. So again, this kind of felt like, for the longest time, a balm that they were going to try to appease angry fans who were saying, the Mandarin looked so great. This could have been a great character, and this could have been one of the great all-time villains. But, subvert expectations. That's the watchword of the day. And we got the Mandarin being a buffoon who was a pawn of Aldrich Killian, who was, quote-unquote, the Mandarin, which I still, from day one, would not accept him as the Mandarin. And for the most part, Iron Man 3 isn't a bad movie by any means, but I think this choice is what really it set fans off on the MCU. This was sort of the beginning of the wokeness in the MCU. It was like, well, we can't really make a terrorist organization the bad guys for a superhero movie. Let's say that Aldrich Killian was just orchestrating, some kind of media campaign that was going to make people think that the Ten Rings were still in power and were as bad as they were. Around the same time that basically the Red Skull was just dropped like a hot potato. And, because it's like, well, we can't really have a Nazi be running around as a villain. We can't put him on lunch boxes, and we can't put him in toys and this and that. And it's like, they wasted such a good character in the Red Skull by doing that. I mean, the Red Skull, even in the first Avenger, was breaking away from Hitler and Nazism. He had his own plans for world domination. he just came up through the Nazi ranks. So it's not like really that you'd have kids playing with Nazi action figures. You know what I mean? Not that that's really a bad thing, as long as they understand they're the bad guys. I mean, when I was a kid, we had some Indiana Jones action figures, and they had like the German soldier and the Arab swordsman, and it was like, well, yeah, I mean, they're bad guys. Why, who else is Indiana Jones gonna fight, right? I mean, that's kind of what you did. You know what I mean? The satanic cult members of the Kali. You know what I mean? That's like, that's not bad to make action figures of that. But I think that's kind of what put them off to using Red Skull more in the MCU. Let me take a sip. Just bear with me. And it's the same thing here. I don't think they wanted to market a film with a, Arabic terrorist, that was going to be politically incorrect. Can't have kids looking at, Arabic terrorists as villains. What would people think? It would be Islamophobia. If we actually did the Mandarin as he was supposed to be done as an Asian American, it would be a stereotype, and we couldn't possibly show this to our kids that someone with the quote unquote Fu Manchu garb that is Asian would be a villain. So again, it is what it is. They started way back then with this kind of gutless attempts. I mean, the Mandarin being Asian does not really necessitate a, again, for lack of a better term, a Fu Manchu style caricature. Um, in the comics, the Mandarin is intelligent. He is smart. You know what I mean? He's technically savvy. He's a business owner, and you know, he's got a lot of layers to him that you can't just throw away as, oh, he's an Asian guy with a beard. He must be, speaking with some kind of a chopsaki dialect or something. No, it's not like that at all. And that's why that was the most disappointing thing. Although I've always maintained, if you're going to do Iron Man modern day, you do have to kind of update it. I mean, we can't go back to Vietnam anymore. Otherwise, Iron Man would be like 75 years old. So obviously, the threat of today is the Islamic jihadi terrorists. And so obviously, if you're going to make that the war on terror be, the focal point for Iron Man's creation, you go to, the war on terror. So, I can understand having an Arabic Mandarin, although technically that term wouldn't fit because, again, that's a Chinese term. But they kind of, the way they built the character, the Trevor Slattery Mandarin, it did seem like he was sort of from all walks of life. I mean, I think, Tony says, he talks like a Southern Baptist preacher. He's got the accoutrements of sort of a Arabic descent. He's got the name of a Chinese general. Anyway, let's talk about the actual quote here. Kevin Feige was in a Reddit, I think, Ask Me Anything, and he was asked if the Mandarin, the actual Mandarin, would ever return. And he said, yes, there are plans for that in the future. Let's see. During the Iron Man 3, it says here that Feige was quoted as saying, one of the reasons we wanted to do the short that Drew Pearce wrote and directed was to clarify, hey, just because we did this thing doesn't mean this other thing doesn't exist. That was always our intention, that Aldrich Killian was perverting the notion of these things he's heard. So again, this is this is interesting. Now, where do they go from here with the Mandarin now? Tony's dead. Who is the Mandarin going to fight? We really didn't get the benefit of getting the torch passed the way they did with Captain America and the Falcon. Not that I like that, because I don't like torches being passed, but people, there's some suggestions going around. I think one of them is that it could be Riri Williams. They could do the whole thing with Ironheart. I don't know. I don't see that being set up yet, so I don't know where they could just like plug her in. So that won't be for a while, I don't think. A lot of people are saying the kid that played Harley in Iron Man 3, he's going to be the new one in the suit, and then he'll take on the Mandarin. Again, unlikely. He's like 15 years old or something, and I don't think so. And the most reasonable choice, I think the one that we are going to see the Mandarin return in, is the upcoming Shang-Chi film. I think the Shang-Chi film is probably the place they're going to do it, because then you can't go wrong. You have an Asian protagonist, an Asian antagonist, possibly an Asian American antagonist and protagonist. I'm not sure how they want to do it. That's probably the way it's going to go. And again, it's going to be disappointing because they're going to sort of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. it. You know what I'm saying? They're going to sort of, you can't see the Absorbing Man fight the Hulk, but you can see the Absorbing Man fight, Agent May. And it's like, well, yeah, I'm glad you're using the Absorbing Man. Well, why can't he fight Thor? You know what I mean? Can't we stick him in a Thor movie? Can't we see him fight the Hulk? And it's sort of the sloppy seconds. That's the way it's going to turn out. I mean, it's sort of like bringing the Red Skull back and making him fight the Falcon. It's like, you can't transplant one character's arch enemy to another unless you want to build it up over the course of a bunch of movies. But I'm expecting the Mandarin will just be the default villain for Iron Man 3. All right, so let us move on. Let me know what you think in the comments below. There is also some more gossip and rigmarole here for the future of the MCU Hulk. Let's see. Also on the Ask Me Anything, one fan asked Feige about the future of the Hulk in the MCU. And let's see. Feige said, many years ago, Mark came in for a meeting with us at Marvel Studios to discuss ways in which the Hulk could grow and evolve in upcoming films. He pitched a lot of cool ideas, some of which led to what you saw in Thor Ragnarok, Infinity War, and Endgame, and some of which would still be cool to see someday. Let's see. We've previously heard about him and Mark Ruffalo, which spawned a 3-movie arc for Banner. According to Feige, some of Ruffalo's ideas have yet to be realized on screen. All right, so I've been disappointed with the MCU version of the Hulk. Again, is this going to be time for another rant? I don't know. I feel like I've ranted this one out, but I didn't like the Professor Hulk in Avengers Endgame, or Smart Hulk, or whatever you want to call him. It's basically Banner and Hulk's body. I didn't like it. I didn't like the way they used it. They didn't focus on him. Ruffalo's Hulk / Banner has been a joke pretty much post Avengers. He was great in Avengers, don't get me wrong. It was written well. He acted it well. But for the most part, I think that Ragnarok was a high point for him. I think Ragnarok gave him something decent to work with. So if they went back to sort of what they gave him in Ragnarok, I think he would do well. He's only as good as the part is written for him. He can't transcend some bad material. Like for instance, Hemsworth can I'm thinking, who else? Even Robert Downey Jr. Because a lot of people say Iron Man 2 wasn't so hot. I liked it, but I mean, he could transcend that kind of material. Hemsworth kind of does too. I mean, they don't do him any favors though in the most recent films, to be honest. But I don't know. I just kind of feel like, and especially since we've heard the Russo brothers say that the Hulk is permanently disabled now, that his arm is pretty much fried. You could change that though. You could easily fix that, because if he goes back to being the Savage Hulk, which he should be, the madder the Hulk gets, the stronger the Hulk gets. That arm would heal in a flippin' minute. All he has to do is get savage again, and that arm would be healed. So there would be some great places you can take the Hulk if you put him back to that savage incarnation, so that you can rekindle things with Betty, have that storyline resolved. We really didn't get any of that, and that's the sad thing. We didn't get any resolution to the original Hulk film. But again, a lot of people are thinking maybe they're going to do the full-on MCU is going to go full-on comic, and they'll do the Amadeus Cho Hulk. They might try to do something with She-Hulk. I don't know. I, I just want Disney to resolve whatever lingering problems they're having with Universal, because Universal still has the rights in perpetuity, it seems. And since the MCU can resolve things with Sony over Spider-Man, it would be nice if they could resolve this issue with Universal, so they could do a full-on Hulk movie where they could focus on the Hulk, do a Hulk trilogy, finish the Hulk trilogy. Although I think at this point it's better to start a new one. I don't think at this point you could like do the Incredible Hulk 2 and 3 and then plug it in and watch all three in a row, because just too much has changed. I mean, if you can do that with the other films, Iron Man, Captain America, arguably Thor, although Thor changes in each film too, just like the Hulk. But anyway, let me know what you think. Did you like the way the Hulk was portrayed? Are you excited for perhaps seeing him return? I mean, he survived. He still got Banner's brain, so obviously when they need the smart one, that's another thing they've kind of downplayed. It's like Shuri's a genius, and Pym is a genius, and we had Selvig is a genius for a time, which I was kind of surprised he didn't show up again at any point in the last two films. But we don't really get to see the smarts of Bruce Banner, Dr. David Banner, post the first Avengers film. They called him in because they needed his smarts. And after that, he's kind of just this like goofy, bumbling guy that, geez, having trouble. He's trying to fight the good fight like a good superhero, but the Hulk is either uncooperative or we can't really um, deal with what the Hulk's doing to him. It's like, if they kept the Ed Norton version, I would have been so much happier with what they did with the Hulk. They kept that version around only for Avengers, and then after that, even in Avengers, really, he wasn't full up there. It was only in, I think, the Incredible Hulk film that he was portrayed with any kind of decency and the dignity befitting the character. I don't think they ever really gave him. I think Thor Ragnarok is probably a step in the right direction. I think it was perfect in the Incredible Hulk. It was good in Avengers, and it was so to good in Ragnarok. But that was a better Hulk film than it was Thor film, to be honest with you, for Ragnarok. All right, so let me know what you think in the comments below. Here's some more rumor. Here's some more. Oh, gee, there's nothing I can confirm here. There has been some rumor that two actors have been cast for a post-credit scene for Spider-Man Far From Home. There's been conflicting reports on what exactly the sequence will show. A few days back, it was rumored that it would introduce Norman Osborn and the Sinister Six, while today a new rumor has sprung up saying it'll actually feature Gwen Stacy and Harry Osborn. And not only that, but apparently the actors who are playing them have been cast. Kiernan Shipka above and Mitchell Hope below. So, again, take this with a grain of salt. I don't know if these guys know what they're talking about with these. I think it's um, We've Got You Covered or something is the one with the story I seen just moments before broadcasting. Uh, Again, I don't think that they're going to play. Well, for one thing, they're too white. The whole thing about Spider-Man franchise in the MCU is that they're going woke. So I would imagine that Gwen Stacy would be Asian. Norman Osborn would probably be black. And that would, of course, mean Harry would be biracial. Something like that. They're going to do something weird and quirky instead of just trying to make them look like the comic characters. As it is, the actress that plays Betty Brant, that girl, looks just like Gwen Stacy. Why didn't they cast her as Gwen Stacy and just have her as sort of a side character? And instead of throwing in a new character, MJ, which of course is not the Mary Jane we all know and love, and um, it's impeding the real Mary Jane from showing up at some point in the future. Again, it's aggravating. It's frustrating what they're doing to Spider-Man in the MCU. Again, I'm finding less and less things to be excited about with the MCU going forward. I don't care about Eternals at all. I've got just the vaguest of interest in Shang-Chi. I mean, if they show me a good trailer and they really, you know, do some real great martial arts in there, I'd probably go see it. Um, Spider-Man: Far From Home. I like to see Mysterio. Is probably the only reason why I'm going. I don't like this cast except for Tom Holland. Tom Holland is good, and I don't like what they've been doing with the characters. What else is there to look forward to? I mean, I'm hoping for Doctor Strange 2. That's the one I'm really looking forward to. Don't really care about Black Panther 2, if I'm being honest. Definitely don't care about Captain Marvel 2. What else do we have to look forward to in the MCU? I mean, the Black Widow, I want to see, but as we already discussed, chances are it's not going to be the film I want it to be, so I don't know. All right, so let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think the MCU's best days are behind them, as I keep saying? Very, very sad news, but all right, let's get on. Let's get some DC news. We're all done with the MCU. Let's take a look at some DC news. And oh yes, we've got the Batwoman trailer. The Batwoman trailer, and it probably would have behooved me to watch the trailer again just before I did this broadcast, but couldn't put myself through it again. All right, in fairness, I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it looks awful. Some people are losing their minds, and I think deservedly so. But that's only because we know CW's track record. That's the reason why. So again, for those of you who don't know, Ruby Rose is cast as Batwoman. She was in the Elseworlds crossover last year on the CW. She did a really good job as Batwoman slash what's her name? Kathy Kane, I think her secret identity name. And that spun her off into a pilot, which got everybody excited that, oh, she got her own TV show, which, to be honest with you, this was a done deal. You know what I mean? When they put her in Elseworlds, they knew they were going to do a TV series on her. A lot of people were like, at every juncture, celebrating. They're going to give her a pilot. Yay. Well, they wouldn't have made her a pivotal part of that second crossover episode if they weren't going to give her a pilot. They're giving her a full series. Yay. Well, they weren't going to give her a pilot to record and produce if they weren't going to give her a series potentially. I mean, that's kind of the way it works. I don't understand why everybody was flipping out over all this, but there you go. So, once again, the trailer is reflective of where the CW was or is, but they've been woke for several years now. They've been woke for some time. Uh, I'm really kind of at a crossroads with these shows now. I don't really have the intensity to see them anymore. Although we're gonna do in about 2 weeks, we're gonna do a special well, I don't know if it's 2 weeks. It might be next week. I'm not sure. I think it's 2 weeks when all the shows will finally be done. I think next week Legends and Supergirl is done, and the week after that Cloak and Dagger is done. So I'll probably do whenever all that is done, do a countdown where we talk about how the seasons played up this year, because I did a show last year where we talked about all these things, but nobody really listened. So I put it all together on one big episode at the end of the year. But yeah, so the shows have gotten really woke. Supergirl has been unabashedly woke and abusively so. Legends of Tomorrow has just gone to pot this season. It's terrible. And Arrow has been canceled, or I guess more accurately, Stephen Amell wanted to leave, and Emily Bett Rickards walked away. So it's kind of like imploding more than been canceled. I'm sure they would have left it on. The Flash is more or less running on fumes. This season, I think, was an improvement over last season, but that's not saying a whole lot. It's very convoluted and confusing to follow. The Flash this year, I found. And maybe that's because I haven't seen the episodes 2 or 3 times the way I usually did back in the first 2 seasons. But the thing is, it might be because those episodes were a lot more enjoyable. Another possibility is that we've got just too darn much to consume now that I can only afford to watch an episode once. I can't really get into it and marinate over the complex plots and stuff. But I don't know. Yeah, I thought this season was a little bit better for Arrow and for Flash. Supergirl was kind of disastrous, although I think if they had focused on what their strong point was, which was the well, here I am, I'm starting to review the shows, but they focused too much on the ripped from the headlines crap, and to the detriment of the show. And again, Legends of Tomorrow has really gone off the rails. We'll talk about that in a couple of weeks when we just go over all the shows, both CW and the other ones. The what is it? Agents of Shield and Krypton will not be in the list because they started just a week ago. I think Krypton is going to start in the next 2 weeks. So it'll just be about the CW shows plus Gotham and Cloak and Dagger and Gifted. So we'll talk about that later. But anyhow, getting back to the point here with Batwoman, they it looks like to me, and again, this is what disappoints me about this, is they still insist on not giving Batman his own television show. Now, one could say, oh, it's understandable because you know that's a gold mine for the movies, and that's kind of we kind of degraded Superman to the point where he's Supergirl's you know not even sidekick, but he's just like barely effective. He's more sort of as a figurehead, like, hey, he knows what he's been doing. He's been around for a while, and he knows that Kara knows what's up because he knows his stuff, and so he can see that she knows her stuff. It's like some kind of weird thing that they've placed him in. So, not having Batman in the show probably is a good thing. But at the same time, I want to see Batman. I don't want to see Batwoman. Excuse me. I don't want to see Gotham. I don't want to see 5-year-old Batman. I don't want to see Batman Beyond. I don't want to see old man Batman. What is so hard about just giving us a Batman TV show? That's where I start on this. When I see all this stuff, it just gets me back to that place where I say, in this day and age, you can do a Batman live action TV show. You can have all the villains realized. You know, with the possible exception of Clayface, which I think CW has a budget enough where they probably could do a convincing Clayface. If they can do Killer Shark and Gorilla Grodd, I think you could probably do Clayface. You could do every Batman villain, and you would still be able to manage, a good show. Would I trust CW to do a good job with the show? Probably not. But you can do that. So why are we going to Batwoman? Purely for woke points. That's all there is to it, really. It's like, what is a popular franchise we haven't touched yet on CW? And someone pipes up, Batman. And so, like, executive number one, we'll never be able to use Batman. What do we got? Executive number two, uh, Nightwing. No, people like Nightwing. We can't use him because too many fans would be happy about that. What else do we got that's woke? Well, we've got the Asian Batgirl. No, 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 we can't do that because she's in Birds of Prey, and we don't want to get people screwed up with a 14-year-old Batgirl and then a grown one in the TV show. No, we can't do that. Batwoman, she's a lesbian and related. That's it. That's it. She's got the show. So again, it's like woke points. Really, I get it. You know what I mean? That's the reason pretty much why they're going with Batwoman above anybody else. But it's strange. Now again, they have I don't know about villains. Apparently they got this Alice chick that's like an Alice in Wonderland. You know how they have the Mad Hatter? Well, I guess this is Alice from the Mad Hatter, and she went nuts on her own, and she's like, I don't know, she's trying to run Gotham somehow behind the scenes or something. And she's the most interesting thing about this trailer because you could tell she's clearly playing it like, like she wants to be in a Batman movie. But again, it basically feels like a Batman movie without Batman. It feels like a movie, really. It's a TV show, but it feels like a Batman movie without Batman, and they're using somebody else in his stead. So again, the storyline apparently is going to be she was a gifted, military not unlike Captain Marvel member, and then she ran afoul of the "don't ask, don't tell" rules when she fell in love with another female military officer or cadet or whatever. And this, I think, is what's going to set up the. You know how there's always some kind of huge angsty romance throughout all these shows. I guess it's going to be her trying to win back this military chick, and her father is a military. Now, my understanding of Batwoman is limited to the Bad Blood cartoon. I watched that and I thought it was pretty good. I liked the character there, but again, this just feels really derivative and really heavy-handed. And her father is sort of supportive, but he lives in a man's world. You know, it's that cliche where he's like, "Don't embarrass me," and try to know your place. I get I don't, not that those are lines, but I get that's the vibe, and it's going to be sort of that kind of old school versus the new hip young free thinkers or something. That's kind of the way it's like being framed, if you ask me. And she ends up having to, I guess, confront this Alice chick, and she runs into this guy. I don't know what his name is. I think I've heard his name is Fox. So he's black, and so apparently he looks like a descendant of Lucius Fox. You know, with the name, obviously that gives it away if that is accurate that his name is Fox. And I don't think he's Lucius because he seems far too young. But he's again sort of the goofy sidekick that every show needs. That's the techie guy and this and that. Because on face value, it doesn't look like it's the same as the other shows. Sort of have to have a full complement of side characters. It doesn't seem like they're going that way yet. She just has this Fox surrogate or whatever. And so she puts on the Batman costume and sort of to take on whoever this is that she has to take on. And she's not with the hair because she has practically no hair. And she's got the cowl, sort of reminiscent of the way Batgirl went out in the original animated series episode. And the interesting thing is, she's out there fighting, and we get some woke moments, is what kind of is setting people off, where she tells the guy to improve the costume, and he's like, well, the costume can't be improved, it's perfect. And she says, well, it'll be perfect when it fits a woman. And again, a lot of people groan, and but the biggest insult, though, is the end, where it's getting reported that she's doing these things, and people are calling her Batman. And she says, I don't have the quote verbatim, but something along the lines of, "I'm not willing to let a man take credit for a woman's work." And that's where I got this this meme that I created, where it's basically taking the Joker's quote from Batman '89 and attributing it to what apparently she feels in this trailer. And so we see her again with the really phony looking red wig that makes it stand out that she's, yes, indeed, actually a woman. And apparently that's the only reason why she wears the wig, is to actually point out that she's a woman. And one would hope maybe that she would wear it all the time. But anyway, the thing is they're, as many people have said before me, they're really pushing this narrative. She is stealing Batman's identity. She is stealing his basically his whole entire setup. So it's kind of, you know hypocritical to be complaining that she's not going to get the respect as a woman when she's basically taking over the whole icon of a man, Bruce Wayne, Batman. So again, it's hypocritical. I just wonder, again, on the larger scale, how much of this is the CW going to try to push at us before there's some pushback? How woke will the CW get before they actually indeed effectively go broke? Now, another thing I wanted to touch on is apparently Batman, as we learned in the Elseworlds, Batman has flown the coop, fled the cave. He's off somewhere looking for something and doing something, and that's about as vague as they explained it in Elseworlds. It's about as vague as Luke Skywalker went off to find the first Jedi temple, and nobody knew what that meant. Nobody knew what it would mean, and it meant absolutely nothing because they could do absolutely nothing with the character of Luke Skywalker. Um, it's the same thing here. Bruce Wayne's just off doing something, and it's whatever the show writers want it to be at any given time. So, again, this kind of tarnishes Batman. It kind of tarnishes the idea that he would leave Gotham. And unless we know he had a damn good reason to leave Gotham for an extended period of time, we have people saying Batman abandoned us and this and that. It would be different if maybe he left her in charge, but then again, she don't need no man. She can't take orders from a man. So if he said, "Look, cousin, look, cuz, I have to leave. I've got something important to do. Ra's al Ghul is causing trouble in the Amazon rainforest. I'm going to be gone for 6 months, maybe a year. Will you take care of Gotham?" You know what I mean? But again, we can't have that because she's got to be edgy and cool and hip, and she's got to do this on her own. Because again, it also begs the question: where is Batgirl? Where is Robin? Where is Nightwing? Where is Red Hood? I mean, there's a lot of people in Gotham that would be stepping up had Batman disappeared. All right, so again, I don't know. I am gonna watch the series. I mean, I'm gonna watch at least the pilot. I will probably watch the series. The only way I will drop this show is if it is so bad that I don't really need it. Because, you know, I watched Riverdale the first season and it was like, I could do without this. I don't need this. I got enough stuff to watch. And the same thing goes on with the other shows. It's like, at some point, is Black Lightning going to be just so boring and uninspired that I'm going to want to drop it? Because when Black Lightning is good, it's really good. I thought the season finale was great. And again, I don't want to get too much into reviewing the other shows, but we're talking about how woke can they get. You can't just throw in one or two episodes of, you see, we're really, like Supergirl, we're really going to advance the plot and we're going to make this interesting. Or like Black Lightning, where it all comes to a head at the end of the season. But we still had to slog through like about 10, 15 episodes of pure dreck before we can get there. I don't know if I have the patience to do that again with yet another show. Now, if it's interesting and they can prove me wrong and it's not woke up the wazoo, I'll stick with it. I'm willing to give it a chance. So, knowing me, I probably will watch at least the first season. So, but again, it depends how much stuff is on that I can't, deal with everything. Again, there's so many woke shows on the CW between Supergirl, Legends, um, Black Lightning, and now Batwoman. I don't know that even with Arrow dipping out after like 10 episodes, whatever, I'm not sure I can keep with it. But this is another thing. This is problematic. Now they did. I should use this as part of our uh, show prep. I did get the I gotta look it up. Let's see. I got the schedule, the schedule, if you will, for the shows this season on CW. Here it is. Let me bring this up real quick. Okay. The CW schedule for DC TV for the 2019-2020 season. All right, Sunday at 8 o'clock, we've got Batwoman, the new series. All right, that's cool. 9 p.m. That's Batwoman is at 8. 9 p.m. They're following it up with Supergirl. Now, I can understand this. I can understand putting both of them together. It makes sense. But I'm afraid that Batwoman is actually going to do more harm to Supergirl than good. Because we've got Supergirl, who is the feminist show. And now we're going to have Batwoman, who is going to be the lesbian feminist show. Now, who are they going to, even if both shows have their ratings tank, who are they going to stick with? They're going to stick with Batwoman because for one thing, it's going to appeal also to a larger demographic, because they're going to say, well, we can't get rid of the lesbian superhero. We've got Alex as the lesbian, the token lesbian in Supergirl, but for Batwoman to have her own show, and so Supergirl suffering under the deluge of the SJW storylines, both of them are not going to survive. And I'm afraid Supergirl is going to go because I still really love Melissa Benoist as Supergirl. I think she's very talented and she's got a good, um, she's carries that character so well. I mean, she embodies that character, I guess is the word I'm looking for. And to see it all wasted with the bad story writing that they've been giving her is just criminal. Monday will be Black Lightning at 9 p.m. So again, this is interesting. I guess Black Lightning is getting a full season. I think, didn't he get a full season last year? I'm not sure anymore. I don't remember. Tuesday, we've got the 1-2 punch of The Flash at 8 o'clock and Arrow at 9 o'clock. Of course, Arrow is going to be a truncated season, meaning I think it's only going to be 10 episodes, something like that. And we'll talk about more about that when I do the shows. And mid-season will be Legends of Tomorrow, which, again, they usually do this. I'm not sure exactly what that means, mid-season, because the shows usually come out in October. So maybe we're looking at December, January of 2020. But yeah, that's the way it shakes out. So again, yeah, let me know what you think. What do you think in the comments below? Is Batwoman something you're looking forward to? Do you think the CW is just going way too woke and that it is only a matter of time before these shows expire because they are dwindling in the ratings? It's been very touch and go over whether Supergirl and Legends will get another season. They got another season this season, but that is basically because they are building up to Crisis on Infinite Earths. So they build up to Crisis on Infinite Earths. They don't need all the shows anymore. I mean, they probably could get rid of. I mean, Legends they've been talking about getting rid of for a couple of seasons because it's the toughest to do. It's got the biggest budget. They don't do as many episodes. Similar with Supergirl, they kind of complained that the budget is kind of high for of course, the power set of Supergirl. And the ratings have been suffering on that one too. No surprise because of the writing. I don't know. I really feel badly because I started out with such enthusiasm for the CW DC EU, but I don't know. They're going to have to up their game. Supergirl and Legends, particularly, are going to have to up their game, or as as Rhodey did in Endgame, it's going to be the old noose. All right, so we've got one more bit of business, and yes, this is another big story that I don't know if I'm not sure if this is even legit. I don't think any of us know if this is really legit yet. But Variety has confirmed, and I think they're the only ones that can confirm this, that Robert Pattinson, I always say Patterson because it looks like Patterson, but like Floyd Patterson, the great boxer. But Variety is confirming that Floyd Pattinson will be playing Batman in Matt Reeves' The Batman. I don't know when that's coming out, but they are doing pre-production on it. Now, Pattinson has been rumored to play this, to be cast as Batman before. And also, there's a lot of rumors surrounding this. Rumors, let's see, Deadline is saying that Pattinson and Nicholas Hoult are both up for the running. Nicholas Hoult, of course, plays the Beast in the X-Men franchise for Fox. Again, another another talented actor. Let's see. The Hollywood Reporter has been touting Armie Hammer for a while, being looked at it, as well as Aaron Taylor Johnson. So again, we really don't know for certain if this is a done deal, but apparently, since his name has been suggested in this conversation before, it does look likely that Pattinson is going to be the choice. Personally, between the two of them, I would probably go with Pattinson over Holt. I think he seems to have more of that look. As far as acting chops go, of course, the fandom at large is going nuts because he was in Twilight. He was Edward Cullen or whatever. I seen literally 3.5 minutes of him in Twilight. I was honestly, I was in a pizzeria ordering a pizza and standing there waiting for my pizza, and they had the television on over the bar, and it was one of the Twilight films. That's the most I've seen of him, to be totally honest. Although I did say on Twitter, I believe he was in one of the Harry Potter films. I think he was in Goblet of Fire, if I remember correctly. He had like a small role, and he was like whatever he was, 18 years old maybe at the time or something. But he was fine. Nothing overly memorable, but I do remember now that he was in the film, so he was all right. I don't have a problem with this casting. Now everybody and their brother's gonna go, oh, everybody complained about Michael Keaton and he was fantastic. Everybody complained about Heath Ledger and he was fantastic. And it's true, but I say let people vent. Everybody complained about Ben Affleck and he was fantastic. That's true, but let people vent. Let people get this out of their system because everybody has got that one actor in mind to play Batman. And you take that away from them, that's every American's God-given right to complain about who they wanted. And after the first trailer comes out, it'll go away and everybody will say like they always do, "Oh, he looks perfect. I should have known better. I'll admit I was wrong." So, yeah, I mean, I'm willing to let him have a chance. Like I said, he's got the look. He looks like he could play probably the foppish Bruce Wayne pretty well, the way Bale did, as sort of the devil may care, retiring playboy. Um, he's got the eyes for the suit. You can see right there. I mean, he looks like if you put that cowl over his face, he kind of looks like he's got that the eyes and that chin. So physically he looks fine. I don't know, acting wise, I just seen him very limited, so he seems like he's a good actor by my estimation, but again, I don't have a lot to go on. So yeah, I'm behind it. I'm supporting him. I think he'll be fine. What do you think? Put it in the comments below. Let me know. I read all the comments, and I will talk about the comments in a future broadcast. Let's see. This is according to Variety, I think. Apparently, the highly in-demand star signed on without even seeing a finished script, as Reeves continues to polish it. At 32, Pattinson will be the youngest actor to play Batman on the big screen. So yeah, this is we knew they were going for a younger actor. 32 is about the right age for a young Batman. Even that is sort of like, I mean, you could go maybe 2 years younger, but you don't want a Batman that's younger than 30. I think Batman has to be about 30, unless you want to do sort of like a very retro, he's just building the Batmobile and he don't know what's what yet, but here's 28-year-old Batman trying to fight crime in the cities. Sort of like a Mask of the Phantasm type thing. I think he was like in his late 20s, right around there. And that's a great movie, by the way. I got to see that again. I haven't seen that one in ages. All right, so let me know what you think in the comments below about Robert Pattinson portraying Batman and Matt Reeves' Batman. And also, the other rumor going around is they've chosen some villains to play in the Batman. Let's see. They're suggesting that while Matt Reeves is writing the screenplay, it will include as many as 6 villains. Not all of them identified, but the Penguin is said to be one of them, as is the Catwoman. So this is really, really exciting news for me because I always felt that that Batman and Robin did them dirty. And this has nothing to do with the actors. I mean, oh my gosh, Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman, you couldn't get a better visible image of Catwoman in your mind. When anybody says Catwoman, obviously that's the Catwoman I see right there in front of you, right there. And her acting was great. The problem was the character was written to be sort of a schizophrenic, and that was kind of what they went for in those days, in that era of, what do they call it? Sort of breaking down the mental state of the characters, heroes and villains, and what makes them what they are. what makes them do what they do. And I can't remember the term. I know it's a famous term, but whatever. And in the case of the Penguin, again, Danny DeVito was excellent, and the makeup was fine. But again, they didn't really have him as the sort of the posh, uh, man about town kind of gentleman gangster. They had him more as this grotty sewer dweller, which I felt didn't fit the character at all. But of course, it was a great performance, and his makeup was very effective. But again, I would love to see these two be played, done well, written well, and done well. I liked, to an extent, I liked the way Anne Hathaway's Catwoman was, but it didn't have the pizzazz of a Michelle Pfeiffer. You need to have that pizzazz. She was somewhat lacking of it. And also, I think it was written where she was a bit too abrasive. That's kind of what you do nowadays, though, as we're talking about Black Widow and so forth. They kind of go for the, again, she didn't have any emotional attachment to Batman in that film. She basically leads him to the slaughter, and after he's broken and beaten up, she really does nothing to locate him or something. That would have been probably a redeeming feature for her, but I never could find what he saw in her. And so I would hope that this is finally the Catwoman version that will be perfect. Perfect, as perhaps um Catwoman would say. The 60s Catwoman, right? She was the one that did that. But yeah, I'm not against having multiple villains in the Batman films, because I think at this point you've got to do the kind of what they're doing in the MCU with Spider-Man, where it's like, okay, we know you know this. We know you know who Spider-Man is, who Aunt May is, who Uncle Ben is. Now, the reason why it doesn't work with Spider-Man is because you still have to introduce them. You have to introduce them, and then you can forget about it. But I mean, like, for instance, if you introduce the Penguin, you don't need his backstory. People have seen Gotham, so if he just comes in as a gang lord and a club owner or something like that, we know him. You know what I mean? We don't need an intense backstory. Same thing with Catwoman. Catwoman, we get the gist of who she is and why she does what she does. We don't need, like, seeing her resurrected by cats and being a dowdy secretary or something. You know what I mean? We could just get straight into the story with them too. Now maybe there are some villains that need that origin, like Mr. Freeze. I would argue we need to see from the beginning something happen to him. I don't think just him walking up on the scene as Mr. Freeze is as powerful. But Riddler, it's another one. If you want an origin for the Riddler, just watch Gotham. You got an idea of what he is from that. Um, just have him start off as being the Riddler. So that's what I mean. I don't think seeing 6 villains at one time, I don't think that's really a problem. It just depends on the villains. Like I said, Mr. Freeze needs an introduction. Clayface, I think, needs an introduction, particularly because he hasn't been done before in live action. Um, I would love to see, I don't think you could probably use him for the full movie. You would probably need to put another villain in the film, but I would love to see Scarface as a villain in a live action Batman movie. They gave him like one episode of the TV show Gotham, but that is a character that Batman fans sleep on. I think you're really missing something. Get him in there. I don't think he's as effective as he would get swallowed up if he was one of the 6. But I want to say if he was in it with somebody else, that would be pretty boss. That would be dope. Um, Scarecrow, you might need the origin. I think you might need the origin. And what I mean by origin is I think the way they handled him in Batman Begins, that's it. I mean, I think you need to see him as a doctor and as a chemist or whatever, a lab tech or something like that. I don't think it works as well as if you just see him go straight to the costume. You know what I'm saying? You got to build up to it. You got to work to the costume. Poison Ivy works without any backstory, I think. That's another one where it's touch and go. I mean, you just see her stepping on the scene wearing leaves. And I'm not sure that the fandom is ready for that. I think you might either need an origin, or you need something to sort of get the taste of Batman and Robin out of their mouth, because everybody's just going to remember Uma Thurman and that whole schlock fest. And again, I say this as someone who appreciates Batman and Robin for what it is. I mean, it is what it is. It's a comedy, and if if you don't dig it, that's fine. I don't say you have to love it or anything, but it's all the Batman films from the 80s/90s are sort of, they're Elseworlds tales. You know what I mean? I don't see any of them as being definitive. I always think Batman Forever is the closest to the definitive Batman movie pre Nolan, because I think Batman Begins is the definitive Batman film. Dark Knight is good too, but those are the three. I always say that I would replace The Dark Knight Rises with Batman Forever. If you could give me a Nolanized version of Batman Forever, I would have loved it. But instead, no. Anyway, so what do you think? Who do you want to see as the six villains, the alleged six villains, the Sinister Six for Batman? They're trying to get it done before Marvel. Again, I would say, yeah, Penguin, Catwoman, Riddler. Gee, I don't know. I guess Poison Ivy. I would love to see the Joker, although, he don't need to be the focus. He doesn't need to be the focus, but, I don't think you can do a Batman film and not in some way reference the Joker. People are going to always ask, where is he? What's he doing? What is he up to at this point? I think you reference him. I mean, if he has only one scene still, he's got to be in it. So that's 5. Two-Face? He needs an origin, though. Two-Face needs an origin. I don't know. Let me see. Catwoman, Penguin, Riddler, Poison Ivy, Scarecrow, maybe, and Joker. We'll throw Scarecrow in there, I guess. That would be cool. It's kind of like a Batman video game. It's like, boss levels. That would be pretty cool. That's fine. I'm fine with it. All right, so let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you once again for joining me for another Torch News Roundup, another Johnny Torch Live broadcast here on the only way to spend your Saturday. And please make sure you check out our links in the description below. You'll find the Twitter page where you can find our poll of the week questions. You can find also my link to my website, The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon Private Eye. We're going to get a new free preview up there pretty soon. I didn't get it done yet, but for our new issue, our latest issue. And as always, I want to put out an autographed copy for people that want to buy. So I'm probably going to try to put that up on my website as well. And we've got the Kids Con coming up on May the 19th, so I hope to see you there. And yeah, so that's about it for yet another week. Make sure you hit that like button, smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. And please leave a comment, because I'd love to know what you think about any of the topics, any and all of the topics we've discussed today. And until next we meet, this is Johnny Torch reminding you once again, keep the flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.